Most of you have heard of the Navajo Code Talkers, but you may not know all of what they did or the horrors they went through. For those of you who don't know, the Navajo Code Talkers were a group of elite radio men who were often on the front lines of World War II getting shot at. Their actions in the Battle of Iwo Jima were crucial in winning the Second World War. Not only that, but they went on and fought in most major battles of the Pacific Theater. Their actions went much further than that. Nearly all of their childhoods were in horrible boarding schools designed to shut out the Native American inside of them. As was often said at the time, kill the Indian, save the man. Which is a cruel and horrible thing to say, and should never be repeated again. That is why it is so important for everyone to learn about their story. But this did not stop them. They spoke their language in secret, so they would not get caught. But then, when they get older, to add insult to injury, they are not given the right to vote. But you know what these men do when World War II kicks off. They volunteer for the U.S. Marines. You know what one of them said? His name is Chester Nez, and he was a Navajo Code Talker. Somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to defend this country. Somebody's got to defend the freedom that they were not given, the freedom that they deserved, and like every other American. This quote shows how these men went above and beyond, and it is quite horrific that what we did to them and how they helped us. It shows that these men are far greater than any man. In their life, by the 1940s, their land had shrunk down to 5 million acres. Whereas before, they had no rivals in the whole continent. This was making it hard on their nomadic lifestyle, to be confined to 2.3% of their unquestioned land. Navajo Code Talkers made quite an impression and a reaction upon the upper brass of the military, like Major Howard Connor, who said, were it not for the Navajos, the Marines would have never taken Iwo Jima. And through their incredible service, they managed to tear down several prejudices, such as the Indian Scout myth, which was that all Indians or Native Americans were naturally better at hunting and could smell the enemies. This was not true, of course, but the myth put American Indians in some of the most dangerous jobs of the war. This was a huge step forward, as most people at the time had believed this.
The beginning of a code. So in May of 1942 at Camp Elliott in California, Philip Johnsons walked into the office of Major General Clayton B. Vogel, which, for those who don't know, is 3 steps below the Secretary of the Navy. So he walks in and says, what if we made a code using the Navajo language, which is in the center of the nation, and only 7 people outside the Native American nation know the language, so it is incredibly secretive and hard to learn, making an unbreakable code. The birth of a legacy. According to Chester Nez's telling of the story, they are put into a room and 29 of them worked to create a code. They created a fairly basic code based on the Navajo language. This code was to be expanded to include anywhere between 400 and 600 words. As the code grew, they soon had more than 400 code talkers. Their work was so incredible that they had their own bodyguards, with orders to kill them if captured. In operation. They would often find a grove or clearing that they had made to set up their radio. They would work in 2-man teams, with one relaying the information to a decoder and the other would write it down on a pad and deliver it to its intended destination. They were so good at sending messages that it would take a machine 3 hours to encrypt, send, and decipher a 2-sentence command, whereas a code talker could do it in 30 seconds. Revolution. The Navajo Code Talkers created a revolutionary code because it was not the first code to utilize Native American languages. It was the first code to have an official dictionary, whereas the Choctaw Code in World War I was quite impromptu and did not actually have a lot of significance to it. It was an on-the-spot thing with only 19 people. The Navajo people had far more numbers, as many as 400, though their numbers were rough estimates because of the classification in their work.
Everybody knows about the Executive Order 9066 to send the Japanese to internment camps. However, most people forget the struggles of the Native Americans during and before World War II. They were not able to vote or do anything like most U.S. citizens would be able to do at that time. The Navajo Code Talkers showed that the Navajo Indians could use their skills and native language for something other than communicating. It also helps the Navajo Indians with the racism they faced at that time and the Americanization they had to go through. The Navajo Code Talkers really did prove themselves to society, even though they shouldn't have needed to in the start. President Bush later awarded the Medal of Honor to the surviving Code Talkers. In 2001, 39 years after the information was declassified during the Civil Rights Movement, this, along with the help and advocacy of others, helped put an end to the boarding schools and other programs that discriminated against the Native Americans. Additionally, the other 300 Code Talkers got the Silver Star. The Navajo Code Talkers showed that the Navajo Indians could use their skills and native language for something other than communicating. It also helped the Navajo Indians with the racism they faced and the Americanization they had to go through. The Navajo Code Talkers really did prove themselves to society, even though they shouldn't have needed to in the start. There is a statue in Phoenix, Arizona. This 16-foot bronze statue, dedicated in 2008, depicts a code talker kneeling and operating a radio. There are many photos of Marines today honoring their legacy. The reform of the Navajo Code Talkers is a long-lasting and widespread effect of their official recognition on August 14th of 1982, known as Navajo Code Talkers Day, issued by President Reagan. In 2001, President George W. Bush gave 3 medals of honors to the surviving 29 Code Talkers. Their story has caused many people to take up arms and try to preserve their legacy in ways such as the National Native American Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. There have also been several other victories for the Navajo Nation, such as in 2025, the Navajo Nation successfully got the Pentagon to give a proper classification about certain content of the Navajo Code Talkers to ensure their history is not forgotten or erased.